Hey friends, it is psychic medium Josh Simons coming to you today, Sunday, December 20th. This is an evening, a day, that many of you may not be familiar with. The evening prior to the winter solstice, which happens to be tomorrow morning, 5:02 a.m. Eastern Time. The evening prior to the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, is referred to in many spiritual traditions as Mother's Night. The idea being that the longest night of the year is very much like a womb in which the sun is reborn again the following morning. And this evening is very sacred to not only myself, but to many folks who would participate in this spiritual tradition. These pictures that you see here, this is my grandmother Edith, this is my mom's mom. I knew her very well. She was the grandparent that I was closest to, that I actually knew. This picture right over here, this is Effie Simons. She passed away when I was 2. I don't recall her. Apparently I knew her, apparently she held me, but I didn't know her. Tonight is the night to honor our mothers. Tonight is the night to honor not only our mother, our grandmothers, but to honor all of the mothers that would have come before us and all of the mothers who would have struggled and known pain so that we could see today, that we could see our lives. The grandmother that I did know, Edith, talk about a painful life. She lost her mother when she was just 3 years old. She was raised by her father, working, from like 12 on. Had 4 children, buried 2 sons while she was alive, buried her husband. And I know resiliency because of this woman, and I won't pretend or feign even being nearly as strong as she is or was. I'm not sure that's even possible. But I can appreciate the struggles that she went through. Effie, my grandma Effie, my dad's mom, had an amazing story. Just the story of my father's birth. My dad was the last of a group of 6 kids, and my grandmother had him when she was 47 years old. In 1958, my grandmother, at 47 years old, gave birth to my father. My grandfather was 52 years old. That to me is a miracle. That to me is a miracle. I would invite you, as much as you can, to honor your mothers this evening. I will have my own ritual. I'll have my own ceremony. I'll have these pictures there. I'll be making offerings of flowers and other things. And I will spend time not only appreciating those struggles, but extending gratitude to them as much as I can. To honor those mothers that came before us is not only a sacred act, but it's an act that will help us live a richer, fuller, deeper life. I'm convinced of that. And the reason that I'm convinced of that is it's my relationship with the dead. Right? I speak with the dead all the time. I communicate with the dead all the time. And these energies of these spirits share with me perspective. And I would have you sit with this perspective a little bit. And this perspective is that of loss, right? If there's no other greater perspective shift than death, right? Because when we die, when we sit on our deathbed, or when we pass from life to death, one of the universal experiences for every spirit is to know regret. And I've spoke of regret before, right? In the way that we should do our best to minimize regret throughout the course of our life. This message is particularly poignant for women. Now, if you're a woman in this modern world, I would have you honor all of the women that came before you. And I would have you honor them in such a way that you maintain a state of historical perspective. Okay? Now, these women, both of my grandmothers, lived horrendous lives. Farming lives. My father would tell me stories of, waking up in the winter with the water in the toilet frozen, the water in the tea kettle frozen because it was that cold in their house. That is a horrendously tough life. And not only did these women experience those hardships, their mothers and their mothers and their mothers, and the farther you go back in time, the more hardships our mothers endured. Every single one of us is here because we had women behind us who were strong. That doesn't necessarily mean they were virtuous, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that. What it means is that they were strong. And we are here because of their strength. Think of all of the women that you come from that couldn't own their own businesses, couldn't go to school, couldn't have girlfriends, couldn't have wives, couldn't do anything but be married to men that they hate and that abuse them and that hurt them. And that's not necessarily a consensus across the board. We all come from people who knew love and passion, right? But guaranteed we come from women who lived their lives for others and sacrificed their lives for others. That is a heritage that, to me, is tremendous and one that should be honored. I want anybody that crosses my path here to understand that kind of regret, that perspective shift that death provides us, as well as the perspective that history can provide us. And for as complicated and out of balance and difficult as this modern world is, generally speaking, women can own businesses. They can become a real estate agent. They don't need to be married to men to make it through this world. And that's not to say that women have it, wonderful or great in any way, because this world is difficult for women, sure. And yet there's all sorts of women out there that sacrifice themselves and don't see these opportunities, or perhaps don't feel that those opportunities are ones that they deserve or they should utilize. I would have you look at, as best you can, all of the women that come before you and all of those struggles and those circumstances and the societies that they lived in, and compare that to today. And think about all of the ancestors you have that are at your back that want you to do nothing but live to the very fullest, to not know regret as best you can, to squeeze every bit of life out of this world that you can while maintaining balance. Go to school, start the business, have the girlfriend, have the husband, have whatever you want. If this world will allow it, and it doesn't create imbalance in your life or the lives of others, you should. The reason being is that as regret is a very universal experience for all of us. When we are on our deathbed, when we are on the other side of life and in death, We all will know regret. We will regret that we could have done things differently, should have done things differently. And certain things are out of our control. But a great many things are in our control. If you can't make it to Mount Rushmore, right, why would you regret that? If you can apologize to somebody that you love, if you can tell your parents or your grandparents that you love them, if not doing so is something that you would regret at the end of life, think about that regret and think about the basket of regret that you'll hold at the end of life. Everybody holds a basket of regret. Everybody will have those things in their life that they regret that they could have done better, should have done, or what have you. Some people will have baskets of regret that are as large as this building that I sit in. Some of us will have a tiny little basket of regret because we did everything we could to live this life as best we can. Tonight, on Mother's Night, honor the mothers. And as you walk into the new year, as you walk into this new opportunity to start anew, as you walk into 2021, I want you to focus on what you can do to minimize regret. I want you to focus on what you can do to minimize that basket of regret that you carry. Again, many things are outside of your control, but so much is in your control. So much can be changed. I lead a life where if I were to sadly pass away today and step to the other side of death, or step, to the other side of life and into death, my basket of regret's going to be pretty small because I've said the things, I've done the things that I can. And I only want the same for you. And I can guarantee you that all of your ancestors, and especially the women, especially the mothers that are at your back, are watching you, and they want you to squeeze every bit of life out of this experience that you can. We are here to know love and to know joy, to know peace and to know togetherness as best we can. I call those the 4 pillars of a life well lived. Do what you can to maximize love, joy, peace, togetherness, all while staying in balance and all while minimizing that basket of regret. There are things that you can do that can help you do this. Tonight is Mother's Night, and I'll be honoring the mothers of my lines, all of our mothers collectively, and in my own way, the divine feminine, the piece of divinity that is of that feminine nature. It will be a sacred act. It will be an act of gratitude. It will be an act of love. And I want the same for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a grandiose or a demonstrative display of ritual. Light a candle. Simply light a candle and sit in contemplation for a moment and offer up love. Offer up gratitude and think of the pains and struggles that your ancestors went through, that your mothers, grandmothers went through, so you could see this day. And then as you move forward into the new year, as you move forward into life, live fully, live richly, minimize that regret that we all will hold at the end of our days. And by doing so, you honor those mothers and grandmothers who struggled so you can see this day. Please do that, not only for you, do that for them. Do that for them. So thank you for this. It's Mother's Night. Honor your moms, honor your grandmothers. One night out of the year, appreciate the longest night. Give them the love and gratitude that they so richly deserve. And focus on living your life fullest. Be well. Have a wonderful new year.